Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm reading this on behalf of Shasta, who can't be here today. We've gathered here in Slough once more with a heavy heart. We do so because it is required of us. We sign and protest, we visit our members of parliament, and we stand behind our fellow journalists and activists who speak the truth in this age of lies, deceit and gaslighting. We will boycott and we will put pressure on our council to cease allocating pension funds to arms corporations involved in the massacre of Gaza. An entire year of genocide, unimaginable brutality, bombardment, devastation and total human suffering and displacement have all occurred. The world has witnessed the Palestinian people's unfathomable courage, determination and steadfastness throughout this year. Since its founding in 1948, Zionists have demonstrated to the world what a genuinely terrible and horrible state Israel is. Its formula for establishing an ethno-supremacist state and the US imperial proxy in the Middle East has been the unlawful occupation, land theft and murder of indigenous people. International law does not acknowledge the assertions that it has the right to exist and the right to self-defense. Both the right of the occupied to defend themselves against the occupier and the right of a people to exist are recognized by international law. According to Netanyahu, the children of the light and the children of darkness are engaged in a war. He is correct. Israel is a child of the dark, as evidenced by their genocidal rhetoric, their carpet bombardment of Gaza, and their destruction of water systems, food storage, farms, and animals to make sure that those who escape the bombings suffer even just more than existing. 70% of more than 43,000 persons who were killed were women and children, while hundreds of thousands remain buried beneath the debris. UN authorities have said the Gazan landscape is full of human bones and debris. Without mentioning the criminals Israel and those who continue to arm them, the Zionist-backed media will report dead Palestinian figures as numbers and never recognize their humanity. The gaslighting by the media on October the 7th needs new terminology. The atrocity, shocking, was to secure unquestioning support for committing a genocide in Gaza. Zionists need to intensify and produce more shock and terror, so they unleash the Hannibal Directive. How is Israel still able to get away with committing genocide? This began with colonialism a century ago, and the genocide started when they gained their sovereignty. The Palestinians consistently complained that the Nakba was going right up to October 7th last year. Since the outset, Israel has used psychological warfare, portraying all Palestinians as terrorists and itself as a victim. Through social media, we have witnessed Israel and its Western imperial arms suppliers publicly committing atrocities that we once believed no one could ever do again, i.e. never again. They claim that it is self-defense when they destroy colleges, schools, hospitals, ambulances, mosques, churches, farms, water sources, refugee camps, shelters and tents. They claim that starving and dehydrating people and children is self-defense. But every time we hear about their atrocities, from stealing electricity from infants in incubators at the beginning of October last year, to running tanks over young men, to letting dogs attack a disabled boy with Down syndrome and letting him be mauled to death, to mass rape and torture of Palestinian hostages, to the shocking arrests, torture and killing of medical professionals, we are astounded. Patients on fire and tents filled with displaced people. Israel is perpetrating atrocities against children and people we cannot fathom. Their hands are smeared with blood, and so are the hands of the Western nations, the UK included, that defend Israel and have given it their entire support. The mainstream media and Western governments feigned outrage over stories of rape and decapitated babies. But despite the obvious images, they remain silent and videos showing the rape and mass torture of Palestinian hostages, the destruction of hospitals, doctors and journalists, and the beheaded bodies of Palestinian children. This moral conundrum serves as a broad pretext for Israel to carry on and continue the slaughter. The UN, organisation responsible for Palestinian welfare in an occupied and apartheid state, is UNRWA. The Zionist regime is headed towards a holocaust of the Palestinian people by outlawing UNRWA and assaulting the UN and other UN organisations. They are depriving the traumatised, amputation-affected and starving Palestinians of international support for humanitarian aid and treatment. By killing journalists in the open and now prohibiting international agencies, they are removing witnesses to this genocide and Holocaust. We cannot see the end of this because it has already spread to Lebanon and threatened other nations. Here, the Zionist lobby has demonised Palestinian supporters, weaponised anti-Semitism, arrested British journalists and have declared a war on our freedom. Our support for Palestine, Lebanon and all those waging the noble war needs to be renewed and reinforced. We must never become weary of the powers that be, never give in to their deceptions or smear campaigns. Crucially, here in Slough, we can keep boycotting, keep spreading the word about BDS and demand businesses like the Berkshire pension fund to stop investing in weapons corporations that participate in the genocide. If you've all not already, sign up for PSC to learn about these campaigns. We thought Gaza was under occupation, but in reality, we have been mentally occupied. The moment has come to expose the lies and free ourselves from the propaganda of the mainstream media. Now silence equals complicity. We cannot remain silent. Finally, in the words of Nelson Mandela, we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!